BoofPaxkMooky, someone who I feel like doesn't get talked about a whole lot, despite easily being one of the best in the underground. I mean, when talking about the plug scene, he, along with artists like Tony Snow and Cash Cage, have pretty much pioneered a whole new wave. It's gotten to the point where you literally have people ripping his flow bar for bar. But aside from all that, Mooky really does keep to himself, and he has a pretty small circle, so I can kind of see why people sleeping. But I think he's fire personally, and he deserves way more credit than he gets. So yeah, hope y'all enjoy, and let's just get into the video, I guess. Mooky was born in North Carolina, and he grew up in a town called Tarboro, which has a fairly small population of little over 10,000 people. He had a pretty normal childhood, and for the most part, he stayed out of trouble. Except for this one time in elementary school where, for some reason, he decided that it would be a good idea to light fireworks in the bathroom. Although his town did have heavy gang and street activity, he never really got involved in that lifestyle. Like I say, he pretty much stayed to himself and kept out the way for the most part. As a kid, Mooky was exposed to music pretty early. His dad introduced him to hip-hop through rappers like Cameron and Max B, and his mom would play a bunch of classic R&B songs around the house. But at this point, Mooky didn't really have an interest in music, and he was solely focused on basketball. He was on his high school varsity team, and he was good enough to the point where playing in college was a serious possibility. And if he had kept going from there, then who knows? Maybe he would have gone all the way, I don't know. It's probably some alternate reality somewhere where instead of rap, Mooky's like an all-star NBA player. But he wasn't really a fan of school, so playing in college didn't really make much sense. At the same time, he had a friend named Callie Breeze who had just started engineering and recording music for people, and he was making decent money off of it. So in his junior year, Mooky quit basketball and decided to start rapping. He started writing songs in class, and he dropped a few songs while in school, but people weren't really rocking with it and they were kind of hating, so he really started taking it seriously after he graduated. He would drop his first mixtape, Pax House Volume 1, in December of 2016. It's not the worst I've heard for sure, but you can tell the confidence just wasn't there yet, and the mixing is just kind of all over the place. Pax House Volume 2 dropped August 31st of the next year, and it was a slight improvement from the first one. I say slight because the issues were still there, but they weren't as bad this time around, and there were even some decent tracks on here like Average and Off the Gas.
I can't even get the gas. I'm just gonna fucking pass. I'm just gonna fucking pass. I'm really high off the gas. I'm really high off the smoke.
But even in his early projects, I think he already somewhat had his flow and style figured out. Cause I mean, he was already making plug songs on both Pax House tapes. It was really just the mixing that was holding it back and the actual energy in the songs. But if we're being honest, I feel like every artist starting out has to deal with some form of those problems, so I wouldn't really say it's that big of a deal. Only a month later, he dropped an EP called Mud. The difference between this project and his previous ones was night and day. The mixing was fixed, the flows were improved, and the production had gotten way better. And the person who was responsible for a majority of it was a producer named Young Brando. You can't really talk about Mooky's come up without mentioning Brando. I'm not too sure how they met because Brando has practically no information out about him on the internet, and trust me, I looked everywhere. But I'm assuming that he just started sending Mooky beats and he decided to hop on them. And while the majority of Brando's beats are plugged, he definitely brings his own sauce to it in a way that never feels like he's copying anyone. Going into 2018, Mooky kept up the consistency, releasing a ton of music and just generally perfecting his sound. Some of the best music he dropped this year was the Internet Trap mixtape and the first two Lace Blunt EPs, which featured some of his first work with producer Niebuhr, but he also dropped a pretty important song this year. Show Me Up released on July 22nd. This is a SoundCloud classic in my opinion, and another song that helped to shine some more attention on Mooky. The only real problem with this track is that it was produced by one of the greatest frauds in the underground, Nico East, but that's a whole other story. But why this song is important is because Lil Tecca actually ended up remixing it and putting it on his album We Love You Tecca 2. Personally, I still prefer Mooky's version, but Tecca definitely did his thing. The only thing I think is kind of weird is that I don't really remember Tecca straight up saying his version was a remix, even though if you know Mooky, then you would know it's a remix. But Tecca has been tapped in with the underground for a minute, so I don't really think it's that big of a deal, and obviously I don't think he was on no Nico East timing. In December, Mooky released a tape called Pax World, which is for sure one of my favorite tapes by him. I really like the vibes on this one. It sounds like he was having hella fun recording it. I wouldn't say it's perfect though, because some songs do sound like they were being played back from a different room, not gonna lie, but it's pretty good overall. The grind didn't stop, and in 2019, Mooky released over 8 projects among various singles, which sounds like a lot, but in my opinion, when you're trying to make a name for yourself, releasing a bunch of music is actually a good thing. Because let's say a random person comes across your music and they like it, obviously they're gonna want to hear everything you've dropped, but if you only have a handful of songs out, then you kind of screwed. And chances are they're probably just gonna move on and forget about you. But you also want to make sure you're dropping quality music, and that's exactly what Mooky did. On April, he dropped one of the most important projects of his whole career, Space Pack 2. On the surface, this is a pretty normal project, I mean, it's only 4 tracks long and it's pretty standard Mooky musically, but there was one song that would absolutely blow up, which was Tada. This is one of those songs where you have a hit on your hands, but it literally came out of nowhere. Because even Mooky himself didn't really think much of the song when he dropped it, and it actually didn't even blow up immediately. But 4 years and several TikTok trends later, the song has nearly 6 million plays on SoundCloud and over 10 million on Spotify. But aside from that, the rest of 2019 was pretty calm. Near its end in December, Mooky dropped another one of his best projects, Peace Is Nice. I wouldn't say there's any bad or mid song on here, and not only did Mooky go crazy on this, the producer snapped as well. Of course, we got familiar faces like Nibor and Brando, but there's also some new faces like Clayco and Texco. And speaking of prods, this is also around the time Mooky started working with Cash Cage. He appeared on Cash's debut project, I Love Cash Cage, with the track Cat in the Hat. And I don't think this is a controversial opinion, but I think Cash and Mooky are one of the best duos in the underground. I genuinely cannot name any bad tracks they've made together. In 2020, most of Mooky's releases were collab projects. Hell and Back was released on April 20th with Brando. Part 5 in the Lace Blunt series was released on April 2nd. Garden was released on August 1st with Cash Cage, and Space Pack 3 was another collab with Brando. Like I said before, all of these were very consistent quality all the way through. He finished the year with the song that would end up becoming another hit, Digits featuring Real Young Phil and produced by Dil Vinci and Mexico Dro. This is another song that went crazy on TikTok, and it currently sits at almost 2 million on SoundCloud and 1.5 million on Spotify. 2021 was probably Mooky's best year. Not only did he release some of his best music during this year, but this is also around the time when his songs started blowing up on TikTok, and as a result, his following would increase just as fast. He dropped the collab tape in January with Nerd Coke called Jack of Hearts. I'm not really too big on this project. I think he was using a different preset, or maybe he was trying to use a different flow, but his vocals sound kind of weird on this one. I respect the experimentation, but I'm personally not a fan. But the next month, he dropped a really good project, 4 Seasons, was stupid cool.
I ain't got a bread, boy, I'm having ins and outs. I just get that bag, then I get out. Huh, know you still in swag, boy, I point you out. What's that in your bag?
Garden 2 dropped on June 3rd, and this is easily Cash Cage and Mooky's best work. The thing about this project in particular is that I feel like Cash went for a more stripped down version of his style, but it low-key allows Mooky's vocals to shine through way better. But that leads us to his last project of 2021, an album called I've Been High for Days, which was a collab with producer Grimdoza. I have no clue what Grimdoza was on when he made these beats, but he was just snapping. And I really only knew him from that one track he produced for X all those years ago, but on this project, he's way different. It's like 90s style R&B, but with a modern twist.
I got glow bitches, stats on me, I get more digits. Same bros, it ain't no switching. I just went over the stove with it. Money on me like I'm dope spending. She wanna motherfucking go with me. I spend a motherfucking.
I'm not gonna lie, when I first listened to this, I wasn't the biggest fan because I was expecting the plug, but after I gave it an actual chance, I ended up really liking it. And if anything, this just proves that Mooky isn't one-dimensional. I mean, like, let's be real, you can't do plug music for your whole career, so it makes sense why you switch it up. 2022 just wrapped up, but again, Mooky kept up the grind. He actually ended up dropping a deluxe to I've Been High for Days in April, which I thought was really good. I'm gonna need him and Grimdoza to do more songs because I think they got someone with that style. He dropped an EP called How to Float in June. I low-key think he dropped this just to show that he was still on the plug because I feel like he kind of been moving away from it in his recent releases. But yeah, this was cool overall. It has some really fire songs on it. In October, he dropped a collab tape with ATL Smook called To The Moon. Very unexpected collab, but I think it worked out really well. ATL Smook is another rapper I think is hella underrated despite him being in the game for a minute. And this tape is underrated too. I mean, I low-key didn't even know it dropped until I made this video, so yeah, y'all should definitely go check it out. The final project he dropped in 2022 was an EP called Commercial Break with producer Jacob Rochester. This project was kind of weird for me at first because like the beats threw me off. They're like DMB beats on crack. Like sometimes the beat sounds offbeat, if y'all understand what I'm saying.
Damn, she wanna fuck in the ring, so leave me there, but we not supposed to. Your pack a touchdown today, it's supposed to. Ayy, didn't even notice, nigga would glow. Been up 2 days, I be told. You only got one night, should've told him. At the spot, I don't want.
Present day, Mooky's still doing his thing. I don't know if he cares about being mainstream. I mean, he probably doesn't, but I think he could if he really wanted to. I think he has a very mainstream friendly sound, but even if he doesn't, I mean, he'll still be fine. He has a great fan base and his numbers are solid. Like I said at the beginning, he's one of the best in the underground, and I'm excited to see where he goes from here and where he takes his sound next. But yeah, I think that about wraps up the video. I appreciate all y'all who stuck with me so far. 2022 was literally just the start of all this, and 2023 we're gonna be going crazy for sure. If you enjoyed, as always, make sure to subscribe and leave a like, and also check out my IG. I'm gonna try and get another video out soon. I'm saying soon, but it's probably gonna be another million years. But nah, for real, thank y'all, and I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one.
I mean, for real, bro, just as long as you having fun doing you, bro, That's all that matter. Like, you ain't even gotta, feel me, be like nobody else. You ain't gotta portray no, you can portray whatever image you pushing out, bro. Like, for real. Niggas think, oh, you a rapper, you gotta always
shoot them up, bang, man.
Yeah. It ain't that, bro. It's vibes at the end of the day.
Yeah.